So that means it's everybody. It's every believer. Every believer should be. Isn't that what it was said in Mark 16?
Yes.
The same things when it was put in Mark 16. Mark put it in that form and he said, believers shall lay hands on the sick.
That's right.
Believers shall do all that. So what is that? That everybody should be a missionary. Now, it depends on, say, take for example Paul, when he was going into a new place. When you go into a new place, you one person will do everything. He's going single-handedly. Sometimes he has an assistant with him. He goes with him and the assistant could be playing some of the admin part of it maybe, but he was playing all the roles of the leader. When you're when you're a pioneer, when you go into a new place and you will be the only one doing everything. Like when you all were coming to my house, I was doing everything. Now I have people to help me. As we increase, there are people to share. But in small setting, you're everything. That is, then you act as an apostle in that sense. You do everything. So now why I bring this up with this is when you take up responsibility. And I'll do everything. Whatever needs to be done, I need to do it. Now, a simple example of a mother. Take a mother. A mother has to, for the child, has to be all of these. At times. So then isn't the mother doing the role of a sent one? Representing God, and when she is talking for God, she is speaking for God to her children and she's training the children up. A simple example, I'm saying a most simplified example of that. You can apply that in any terms. So all of these, when you take up the responsibility and say, I'll get this job done. Now I asked you all about outreach. If one of you take up a responsibility, at that point, you're the apostle. You're being the pioneer at that position. Then there'll be others coming in and helping, who take up other positions and share the load. But when you take up the responsibility, then God sees the heart of the person who's willing to do what his work needs to be done, that he is going to trust the person with more than just utterance. Then he would not just want you to be just the mouthpiece. He would also be the one who would think. He would get you involved, side by side. Start giving you responsibility. So in that sense, you will start operating with your mind too. As your mind gets renewed to God's way of thinking. Because then you surrender at that point. As you slowly begin to surrender your will, it's at a point where your will is zero. That's total surrender, right? And there's nowhere where you say, I want to do this. It all becomes what you want to do. What his will becomes your will. When you die to self, take up your cross and follow me, he said. So when you really follow him with dying to self, and his will becomes your will, then you're in perfect unison with the mind of Christ. Then at that point, you would operate in the revelatory gifts. Because you'll understand too, it will not just be a mouthpiece. See, he may start with you being a mouthpiece. So the utterance gifts usually are just you just hear and just repeat. Everything that God tells you to do. Your mind, you don't get involved at all. You don't try to give anything extra than what is just being given. You're just being a mouthpiece. That's when you're operating in the utterance gifts usually. A good example, we talked about speaking in tongues and interpretation, right? In 14, we did this. I don't know how many of you were there for the part we did about the difference between the public tongues and the private tongues. 14, 1 Corinthians, whole of 14, we read it one time, and maybe we can. But if you read the whole thing, is about the difference between public and private tongues. Okay, it is misunderstood and it's been taught differently many times. If you go back and read with this as the title to that chapter. So it's the difference between private tongues and public tongues. Private tongues is for edification, for your personal edification. You do it as much as you can. Don't stop. And he said, I'll do it. I do it more than you all, he says in Ezekiel. But then in public you do it, it should be interpreted. It's for the benefit of all. So that's what he was saying about public tongues. So in that, So now in tongues, first when you're speaking in tongues, you don't know what you're saying. Right? Whether in public or private, you don't know. When you speak in tongues, you don't know your mind is not involved. But the interpretation of it, the mind is involved. When you get it is given in your known language. Then you're interpreting. You're not translating, you're interpreting. There's a difference, right? It won't be exactly one sentence to one sentence. Many times interpretations would be one word to a paragraph. Even. It happens, but that's interpretation. So, but then when you're speaking in tongues and you're interpreting, then that's prophecy also, because it makes sense, and it can be word of knowledge, it can be word of wisdom, it can be any of those things, combination of this. But if you're just being a mouthpiece and you're just repeating what God gives you, you could be giving a tongue and an interpretation, but you will still not be in a position where you can interpret it or you can give wisdom for people. That comes when you take up responsibilities. As you become more mature is when you start operating in these gifts. And you'll be able to make up a judgment of what's right and wrong and speak for them. Give them further suggestions. And one of those is discerning of spirits. Too. Now coming to, all of you are like, am I saying anything new here? Are you agreeing with me?
Yes.
Any questions?
This is awesome.
Okay. I'm not sure because am I going fast? I'm repeating a lot of stuff from the last two sessions. That's why I'm trying to go fast on this. But am I at a good speed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So now, the part about discerning, I want to come there with discerning of spirits, because we said spirits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is that we're talking about? What are the kinds of spirits? So that's important at this point. It's
God's
important.
spirit, divine spirits, and human spirits.
Human spirits. There can be three spirits, right? Yeah. Demonic. We have them here. Those three personalities and the spirits. This is a spirit being.
Mm-hmm.
Then I just left out God and this whole thing. Oh, whiteboard. I don't have God on it. We have God. We have Satan. That's his spirit, and his spirit is the Holy Spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then man's spirit is also there. So we have three spirits.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I'm bringing it up is in the operation, especially with the utterance gifts, or with any of these things, the way the manifestations of the Holy Spirit is the same way you would find that the evil spirits operate too. So that's why when you are listening to and you're being a vessel to be used as a vessel of God, and you're utterance gifts, you're just hearing what God is saying and you're uttering it. When you're doing this, the same way by which God speaks to you, the same way demons can speak to you. Agreed?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think demons speak to us? And we can be giving that as a message to someone, thinking it is God? It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Demons can speak to us too. And you really can't make out between the two, because the same way that God speaks to you is the same way they speak to us too. So that's why it's so important. We should be able to differentiate. So this gift, or this part of it where the Holy Spirit gives you the ability to discern between the good and the evil. So that's not me. The same way that you begin, see, each of these gifts you activate. We use latest form terminology that we use is being activated in any of this. The moment you are activated in any of these, as you begin to learn to operate in them. Now I told you in the beginning, when you are baptized in the Holy Spirit, you have all the 9.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I told you that. You have all the 9. Why? Because they are manifestations of the Holy Spirit. If you have Him, you have it all.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
It's just that they could be dormant and some could be activated. So what makes some of them dormant? Why are you dormant on some?
Not using them.
not using
Not
them,
practicing.
not practicing them. And first of all, if you don't even believe you've got it,
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Unbelief.
you didn't know you got it. Many times we are told, and only some people have this, you're specialist in this. We categorize people. Say, you are good in this, that's what you have. And you're good in that. We limit ourselves. Because first of all, we didn't even know we can operate in all the nine. We didn't know that. If you have the Holy Spirit, you've got it. It's His manifestations, it's not yours.
That's
To
right.
possess.
That's right.
It's not like a possession. It's His that you're operating in. He is what we possess.
That's right.
And that's the blessedness of having Him.
That's right.
That's the biggest thing. We have Him. And then all the nine come with it. It's a package deal. We've got it all. It's just that we didn't know we have it and we don't operate in it. And first of all, if you don't even know it, you don't even try at operating in it. Then if you know it, then you tried a little bit, but you weren't successful, or you were hesitant. Why do you think we are good in some and we're not good in some?
I think because sometimes we have a language for how to flow in each distinctive gift of the Holy Spirit. In other words, we cultivate our gift and we develop a language or an ability to flow in the gift. You know?
Why? You're right. You're right. When you say language, you're saying like it's kind of getting into the flow of that.
The flow of it.
Get the current of that, and you're not used to
comfortable
it,
with
so you're not caught on it yet, or something like that. And you're putting it as a language. Good.
We have a tendency to build statues in mind too. And so
Why? No, my question is why do we choose some and we leave some?
Because I think it's basically about your environment, what you're used to.
What
You're more susceptible to certain things, and so
Very
you know.
Depending on the church you grew up in, your race,
Yeah.
all of that, that's true. Then anything else?
Lack of knowledge.
A
Lack
lack
of-
of knowledge.
That's what I said. First of all, you don't know that you have it, and then even when you have it, then you're not sure whether you can flow in that. You kind of hesitate and think, okay, this, and like you said, tendency is also, you like some and you don't like some, and the like and the don't like is usually based on the atmosphere in which you grow up and things like that. And also the people that you admire. You like some people, you look up to some people, and they flow in certain gifts, and we get stuck in those gifts only. So that itself is a sign to us that what I like and I want to cultivate, I'm able to cultivate. Why? Another reason I would put it is, I like the way, I think it was Benny Hinn who said it first, or maybe Catherine Coleman, he repeated, he's a gentleman. The Holy Spirit is a gentleman. Only if you look favorably towards something, you want something, will He be able to flow in it through you. It again goes back to the will. It's our will which actually bothers. It stops the flow because I don't like it, or I'm not looking at it favorably, or I'm scared about something.
Fear.
I think it could be fear, but on the whole, all of those things, you are actually pushing Him back. He's not free to flow.
That's true.
Unless you desire something and you want to have it. Those are cultivators through which the Holy Spirit can then work with you and you can be activated. But but then again, another part of that, an important part of it is, now why do we need to have these?
To win the lost.
To win the lost. True. That's for the commission.
Great Commission.
For the Great Commission, we need it. But the part where I was trying to go was, when you like something and you don't like something, when you have our likes and your favorites of these 9, we pick and choose some and we leave some. But in the process, do you think it will affect the result?
Yes, it does.
It does. So if you are a responsible person, when you become a leader or take up responsibility, when I say leaders, it's basically responsibility, right? If you take up responsibility or you see what is... Did I mess it up?
That's okay.
It's a long word. When you take up responsibility, the work, what needs to be done, that's the goal. the commission, the Great Commission. So to do the Great Commission, for this particular job to be done in this circumstance, whatever I need to have, let me have it. It's not on the basis of I want this and I don't want this. That's the part where I comes in. It's not about me. It's about the target. It's about the result. But there is a need, and this need has to be fulfilled through me. I'll be anything that you want me to, Lord. If you are willing to be that, as we started in the beginning, if you remember, I had this conversation. This is not my comfort zone. There could be areas where you say, this is not my comfort zone. I don't want to do it. But I'll do it if there's nobody else doing it. That's a responsibility, right? God sees at heart. And I was showing you with how God was working with Moses and how he used each man of God that he used. Noah, in that time, he needed Esther. At a time like this, you need to do this. Each one of us, we're willing to do it. I'll do anything. When we come to that point where I'll operate in any of this, even though I'm not comfortable. If there's a healing needed, if I say I'll only stick to the word of prophecy, that they need a miracle or one of these power gifts need to be operated. This person is in a dire need now. So our faith has to jump up to the point where it can get the job done. To get the job done, we should be willing to do anything. So that flexibility comes in being, it goes back to the first commandment and the second, the two greatest commandments, right? Loving God with all our hearts and then loving our fellow man. So because of that, Lord, and God needs us to do through us, He has to get this done. So we are in between God and the need. So if you act like a responsible older son, I'll do it. Then He's going to enable you to use any of that, depending on the need. He should have the freedom, the Holy Spirit should have the freedom to use all of us according to the situation. That's how He operated with Jesus. That's what I wanted you to see with Jesus. Okay, let's read something. I'm talking without the word at all. I'm running for time, but let's go into seeing something. I want to show you one thing. 1 Peter 2:9. Maybe I'll know it by heart, but I want to remind you.
1 Peter 2:9.
Yes. We used to learn it as children as a Sunday school song with the words. Those days we had learned a lot of scriptures by quoting 1 Peter 2:9. Because we usually stick with Paul. I want to give one from Peter today. Got it? Read it.
But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should shew forth the praises of Him who have called you out of the darkness into the marvelous light.
So, what is special about this?
And we're peculiar people.
We are peculiar people. Okay. We are chosen. Yes.
Separate.
Royal priesthood.
Royal priesthood. What is that? So if you go back to the tribes, Old Testament and the tribes, how can those two roles be combined?
I think in the Old Testament they were not
Combined in their privilege.
Sorry?
In the Old Testament they were not combined.
They were not
Because
combined.
Noah
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm
Ruth
showing.
only
Yeah.
were king. Yeah, but in the New Testament
Yeah. So in the Old Testament, king what was the role of a king? A royalty. David. It started with Saul, and God wanted to be the king all along with them, but they rejected him. And then they asked they wanted to be like everybody else, like mere man. That's how we want to do. When we ask for a house, and we'll say, everybody has a house. Is that we do it too, right? Everybody has. We want to be like everybody else, and we'll ask for things. So they asked, and they got a king, and that role was established. But you would see even in many times, like Judah, God among the 12, God chose Judah right then. He saw his praise, and he saw his character was different from the others. He praised He chose Judah for certain reasons as a lead. He rejected Reuben as a lead.